How's everybody today? What a group. Holy cow. I didn't expect this many people. Well, thanks for coming today. We're here today to talk about corporate-wide SSL inspection. Anybody doing that today? Show of hands. 1, 2, 2. Yep. It's kind of something new. It's very, very important. When we started to do this, I just got to give you this little fun bit of information. So we just got a new director in, and we had some stuff we had to look at and had to share with him the other week, and so we brought it up on console and showed him, and he's like, you can really see their credit cards? I'm going, yeah. He's like, you can really see their address? Yeah. You can see their passwords? I'm like, yeah, I can see everything that goes in or out of the company. He's like, wow, that's pretty amazing. So we're actually using it to our advantage. It actually came in very, very handy a week or so ago. We have some employees transmitting some stuff back and forth that we caught on the fly, took it to their director's attention. They didn't know about it, so we had to spin up a big investigation to find out why these people were using it. And today we found out that they weren't supposed to be using it. So that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of where we're heading with this type of technology. So trending, what is growing out there? What do we need to be concerned with? What do we have to look at? What do we have to inspect? Huge amount of information out there transacting every day, and most of it's getting portable, which gives us a whole nother layer of technology, things that we got to work on. So actually big fan of iced tea and gum. So I brought my red cup for the Bucks. So you have to excuse me while I take a drink once in a while here. Why? Why do we want to do this? Some pros and cons of why we want to look at this data. Do we trust our employees? Yes. Do they make mistakes? Yes. So a pretty simple concept. Planning considerations. What are all the moving parts you got to look at? Desktops, servers, software, AD, DNS. So then, come on in. Proxy technologies, what's out there, what can we use, what to consider, and then the inspection technologies. So everybody good with that? We'll go ahead and move on then. Trending growth areas. So mobile, everybody knows that mobile is increasing worldwide. There's a great demand currently for on-demand data access and applications. So we have people that want to have application accessible via their phone or via their tablet, or maybe they're coming in with their own Mac, BYOB. So all of these are considerations that we have to take into effect every day when we're dealing with data and data content. Social media and streaming. Again, another big checkbox that we use in our company. We promote it within our company, and we have concerns in our company. Increasing demands for walk-around data. We have doctors and nurses and directors and VPs that want to be able to pull up a patient's chart anytime they want. And I'm sure there's other people in industry that also wants that ability. They can just reach in their pocket, pull it out, and have access to it. Well, they also have the ability to transmit that data too. So that's what we need to watch and what we need to look at. And most companies are already on the bandwagon, the security bandwagon, and by doing so, the first thing they're embracing is SSL. Everybody in here trust SSL? Yeah? No? No? All right. I do trust it. It's a good technology. It's a good place to start. With that said, these are provided by Cisco actually. You can see that the overall trend is to go away from your desktops, to go away from your static devices, and to move forward with stuff that you carry, right? So now we have to take into consideration not only our fixed wired networks, but now all of our wireless technology. How do we monitor these endpoints for data that we know as PI, PHI, PCI? What's the biggest growing mobile service growth areas? Mobile banking, commerce, and social media. I just don't think there's any surprise in any of that. So some of the pros that you get from checking out the data that you intercept, better insight to the types of data leaving the company, so know what people are sending, all right? Is it their socials? Is it somebody else's socials? Is it 100 socials? So ensure legal and regulatory compliance. Yeah, we all have to deal with a certain amount of that, and it's always good to have that stuff at hand if you ever come in front of regulatory governing bodies to have to answer some questions for that. Excuse me. This also gives you much more information on how to prevent data leaks in real time. Active blocking. This is an absolute must in the future. A lot of people aren't doing it today, but you want to stop that leak before it can even get out from any place on your network. Also, trade secrets. Hey, there's a lot of that out there that, people have laboratories and testing facilities and things like that that contain, trade secrets. We want to make sure that they're protected at all times. Also, the newest malware that's actually coming online is all the secured malware, okay? They're putting this stuff in tunnels and sending it in, and most companies, the firewalls are just letting it go straight through, So it's one of the easiest ways to get malware in. So there is a total cost associated with doing this, and it's not cheap. It's not cheap. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of technology that you got to deal with, and a lot of time you got to spend looking at that technology thereafter. And that's where the required ongoing maintenance comes from. It's pretty much eyes on glass a lot of the time. And a lot of technology, excuse me, has to all work together flawlessly, all right, to make the end user experience completely transparent. So a lot of things have to come together to make this a successful project. Some other things, if you're planning to do this on a corporate level, how many desktops or mobile units do you have to look at, all right? That's going to determine how big your scale is, right? How many URL transactions do you need to inspect, peak and off-peak? What kind of certificates would work for your entire company? Okay, this is another instance where you got to consider all avenues that you want to look at your data from. Okay, how to handle system failures? Do you fail open or fail close? Escalation processes for a discovered instance. Help desk support. If you're having problems with URLs that just won't work right going through the inspection system, and what are you actually looking for, and how are you going to do it? So there's different ways to intercept. You can intercept on endpoints, you can intercept at firewalls, you can put dedicated proxies in. All of them have advantages and disadvantages. It's just whatever's going to be the most financial fit and best fit for your company for technology. Okay, desktops. Things to think about whenever you're doing this. What OSs have you got to support? Do you use a one cert for the entire company, or do you break it up and make it specific to different groups or different departments? Authentication, again, can't overemphasize this. There's a lot of information that's transacted whenever you're doing this through the AD and LDAP protocols. DNS, make sure DNS is going to be able to support it. Make sure it can handle the full volume of the calls you're going to make. Is there any special applications that you have to take into consideration? So a lot of companies have those, and you really need a POC and test, make sure those things are going to work. And then other special needs for web apps, special databases, HTML, Flash, the list goes on and on and on. I'm sure you've all been there and done that. So how does it work in concept? So Alice asked Bob what time it is. That information is handed off to a middleman, a proxy system that actually breaks down the SSL and takes a look inside the package. Proxy says, okay, hold on 1 second. Let me go find out what time it is. So it goes and asks Bob what time it is. Bob says, hey, it's 7 p.m. Proxy takes that information, checks it, inspects it, looks for viruses, logs it, reports on it, and highlights it in every way that we ask it to, and then hands that packet back to Alice and says, it's 7 p.m. Okay? So kind of a man-in-the-middle attack with a white hat flare, I guess you could say. Some of the things you got to consider for the server components. Again, what OSs do you need to support? What certs? Are you actually going to intercept the information coming off all of your server banks also? Authentication, can't say it enough, and DNS, I can't say it enough. Can interception be offloaded? Here's some new technology that's emerging in the market right now, offloading this so you don't have to have as much horsepower available at the server level to actually crack the SSL, and it works pretty well. Overall, what kind of loads do you have to handle, and do you have HA, high availability, DR, and are those completely compliant, and how big does the scale really need to be? You're just looking to support part of your org or the entire org. The other thing that we actually stumbled onto that became very important is using time syncing, and that's just so that all the times matched when we went back to look at doing investigations. Yes, sir. So some of the firewall technologies will actually allow to offload and do direct inspections at the firewall level. Does that answer your question? All right. Okay, so once you have the information, you have to look at filtering. You've got to take into all different types of considerations, what you're looking for and what's important to the corporation. So break it down, have some meetings with your departments, have some meetings with your architects, and say, hey, what's important to you? You know, and that's a good place to start, because this can get very cumbersome very quick. And then the overall picture, once it's all put together, this is basically how it all transacts. Software. It's an oyster. I mean, there's lots of software out there that will do this. So look at it pretty close. Make sure it's going to fulfill all your needs. Plan your pack files. If you're using pack files for your desktops and for your mobile devices, very, very well, because that has a huge impact on your user base transactions and what that whole concept of the experience is. Have a meeting with the vendors. Bring everybody to the table, all right? Have them all sit down and make sure that the firewalls are going to work with your inspection units, and those are going to work with your SIMs, and just make sure you got it all together at that. Needless to say, you have to do some testing with your software, with the desktop softwares. Make sure that everything's going to work. Automate a lot, because a lot of this data comes down really, really quick, and it has to be if not real-time responses. And try to stop as much malware as you can before it even hits the inside. So we stop a lot at the firewalls. We even stop more of it coming in through the proxy channels. And also, the threat tables, you know, there's usually updates to those at least once a day. Consider using definition updates or automated definition updates if that's part of your criteria. Pack files. This is an overview of one of the pack files that we use. The top, it shows that it's going to start offloading the standard HTTP, HTTPS, and the FTP traffic off to the proxies from the browser. And then we also take into consideration stuff that we mandatory inspect and stuff that we mandatory block. Right? Some of this is done at the endpoints because it helps the efficiency of the overall system. Some of it's done at the inspection level, and some of it's done at the proxy level. It all makes sense to what you're trying to do, you know, and how much horsepower you got. Another thing to consider is performance. So caching proxies help a lot. Okay, they'll go out, get the request, and hold it in cache, whatever you determine that amount of time is, and then serve that up. You know, typical pages like Google, Yahoo, things like that are great pages to consider for caching. Again, I think I hit this quite a few times, but just make sure that these key central components can handle all of the load, because it is a tremendous load. It's more than just a normal amount of load that you would put from normal surfing altogether. And like I mentioned, the loads are very demanding on all the systems. So the systems track the request, crack the SSL, use virus protection to keep everything as clean as possible, authenticate the users, classify the threats, monitor infections, auto-heal infections, inspect contact, log, and report on histories, and also keep track of any type of reporting that you may want through an automated or ad hoc manner. So these are all the considerations that we took into consideration when we were using proxy technologies to do all this. Filtering, inspection technologies, try to keep it simple because it can get really complex really, really quick. These are some numbers from some of our filters that we take into consideration for our company. As you can see, some of the numbers are small and some of them are starting to grow in size. And always expect to see everything. I mean, you will see just stuff you expect and stuff that you don't expect. People, I just don't know how to say it, when they're behind a computer, they think everything's good. So your inspection technology should really be able to handle this. So that's also a consideration. And this is me quite a bit of the time. It's easy to get buried, especially in this technology, really, really quick. So there's a lot of moving parts, and you got to keep it as seamless as possible for the end users. And when it's all put together, I'll give you a big picture of what our subsystems actually ended up to be. The next slide is without the mobile interfaces, which we're just working on putting into place now. But when it's all said and done, that's what it took for us to do SSL inspection, tear down, and control. Quite a bit, huh? So we're going to put all this technology to use. Is there an ROI? Yeah, there actually is. So if we just went and ran numbers against infection rates and broke those out by week and by year, and overall just stopping infections coming in the door is going to save our company right around $1.6 million in labor and overhead for a full year. So that's the bottom line. We can show that the technology is worth putting into place. And that's it, folks. That's all I have. Any questions? Yes, sir.
How do you project the results of your interception? What sort of projections are there for having access to essentially personal capital?
Absolutely. So we have two people sitting right behind you. We call the one guy Dora the one girl, Dora the Explorer, and the other guy, Jimmy Neutron. So this is our main analyst team. And their names fit them pretty well. So one says, hey, we got to go find out what this is all about. And I'm going to say, oh, yeah, I know how to hack Southwest to get us free airline tickets to go check that out. So it's limiting your exposure, right? Limiting who has access to that data. Keep that data secure, backed up. We keep our data for well over 365 days, just in case we ever get into a regulatory compliance. And we've had to go back and use it already. Yes. Yep. So we use DLP with encrypted Oracle, and that's what keeps everything safe and sound. There's only 2 people that have access to the database, me and 1 DBA, and that's pretty much how it is. To get to the database, you actually have to break glass and have special credentials. Yes, sir. A lot. So we started. Oh yeah, well over that. So we started off basically seeing about 13 million URLs a day that we were inspecting, and this week we're well over 17 million, and that's just in 6 months. And almost all of it's secured. About 80% of that traffic is just pure HTTPS. Yes, sir.
So has this, your efforts,
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. In fact, every day these 2 back here are on the phone checking up on that stuff, going, hey, wait a minute, why'd you transmit your cousin's SOSH out of the company? So every day there's stuff like that comes over.
So what's the level of complexity of efforts? Mistakes or malicious activities?
Yes to both, actually. We've had some both. We've had some malware that was on the inside that actually was doing, it was a Russian malware that was actually got on our ER systems, and it was sitting there screen scraping and trying to send that screen scrape back up the streaming media through the media player. And we caught that the day before Thanksgiving. Over SSL. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So you're fundamentally like spoofing certs for external websites, like Gmail and Dropbox?
No, we do the man in the middle on the inside of the company, and then let the proxies out and negotiate the cert as they would as a root cert through the semantic corporation. So the information comes into the proxy acts as the man in the middle, and then the proxy says, okay, I have a full-fledged CA cert that I go out and surf with. And it will come back and tell you if the cert that it went out and tried to negotiate with is bad. It'll just throw an error and say, no, bad cert. Yes, sir.
You have to deploy that trusted CA cert to all the end devices that you're doing. Okay.
Yeah, you absolutely do. That your internal CA cert has got to go on your appliances and on all your desktops and mobile devices. It has to be deployed to them also.
You said this was issued by semantics.
Yes. So we use a full-blown semantic cert.
Are there sites or classes of sites that you maybe told that you're not to inspect?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So there's certain business sites that we know are fine, that we're not worried about the type of information that's gone out across them, so we actually exclude them. We do some of it. Let me get back. Down here, at the very bottom, is one of the sites that we just list as an exception. And so we really don't want to see all that traffic coming back through the proxies because they're pretty busy just cracking normal SSL. So we offload that onto the firewalls, and that's what that does. It routes it back through the firewall. Yes?
How do you manage the corporate culture side of this? Being that you're talking about it, tells me you get probably pretty open about it right now. A lot of companies, they don't always talk about it, but then they get the corporate culture here, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now with Gmail, that they go to the internet default. So how open are you to your employees?
Very open. So at first there was a lot of resistance. The big brother syndrome set in, and we did is Katie in here? No, Katie's not in here. We had a PR person go out and do a lot of door knocking and holding special sessions with doctors and nurses and IT people, trying to convince them that, hey, we're trying to help. We're not trying to inspect your life. So yeah, that happened. Anything else? Yes, sir.
You have a lot of buy-in or contact with like the legal departments and so forth to say what you can and can't keep in terms of like a certain big session before precisely what the scope or not scope.
Legal has weighed in on certain things, and most of it's already, with us, it's dictated by the OCR. All right, so the OCR is saying, hey, you got to protect PHI, you have to protect PI. From the POS units, you have to protect the PCI. And now we're right in the middle of launching mobile, almost corporate-wide. It's rolling out. So that's the next step. I'm actually getting ready to build a whole infrastructure to take that mobile world and bring it through this type of environment to make sure that we're staying compliant with mobile devices. Yes, sir. Yes. Oh, they'll actually get pushed down through AD, through a search store. I'm sorry? Yeah, that's a... So right now they're all company owned, but we're also going to take on some BYODs. And with that, they'll have to go to a website, and I'll place the cert on an internal website, and they'll be able to click on it and automatically take it into the trust. So pretty simple. Click here and you'll be good. As far as the cert? Yeah, it's a full-blown root CA cert from Semantic, so it's legit. The truth? The truth, it's on a thumb drive, locked in a steel box, locked inside the inspection unit, inside the data cabinet, inside 2 electronics doors with 16 cameras, inside a locked elevator to get there. So it's inside 2 levels of security, inside our data center, inside a locked cabinet, inside a locked box. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Yeah, but the copies are well locked up. The keys to the kingdom are put away. Is that what you meant?
I guess I see potential for if one to keep compromised and then install on level.
Yeah, absolutely. So the great thing about our architecture and the way we actually designed it is we can change those keys out at any time. In a blink of a hat, I can put all new keys in and push those down to all the devices. Take me about 30 minutes. Yeah, it's pretty easy, actually. Yeah, I could rebuild the old ones and reinstall them and give them new IDs. Anything else? All right. Anybody hungry? Yeah, I am. All right. Thank you, everybody.